Some things are better told in stories. Some things are better explained in stories. You might not understand something completely until you hear a story about something. Forgiveness is a good example of that because forgiveness is something that we learn from God. God is the one that shows us what forgiveness is, what true forgiveness is. We've talked about so far David, and we've talked about Joseph. Now today we're going to look at a parable that Jesus told, and here's the context for the parable. Peter comes to him and says, "How many times should I forgive my brother? Should it be 7 times?" And Jesus says, "No, 77 times." Forgiveness should be pervasive. Forgiveness should be something that you recklessly give. And then he tells this parable to illustrate his point. There is a master who has servants, and these servants are coming to him because they owe him money, and he is about to collect. One of the servants comes, and he owes his master 10,000 talents. This is the equivalent of millions and millions of dollars. An insurmountable amount of money. This man and his family would have to perform hard service for the rest of their life, and they still wouldn't be able to pay back the amount that he owed his master. And so his master says, "I'm going to enslave you and your family." But this man, in desperation, falls on his knees and he begs his master, "Have mercy on me." And so the master does. He has mercy on him. He doesn't just cancel half the debt, he cancels all of the debt. It is wiped away. What he previously owed is now gone. Well, that servant turns and leaves the presence of his master. As he's leaving, he passes another person who owes him some money, 100 denarii, which is the equivalent of a couple dollars. And after being forgiven so much from the master, you would think that he would have a certain response to this man who owed him only 100 denarii. But instead, he demands that this man pay him back right now. And if he doesn't, he's going to have him thrown into prison until he can pay him back. Word of this interaction gets back to the master, who had forgiven this servant millions and millions of dollars. And so he has this servant brought before him again, and he scolds him. He had been forgiven so much, and yet he went and he demanded just a few dollars from this other person. He knows the forgiveness of his master, and yet he cannot forgive. And so he has him tortured and put in prison until he could repay the debt that he originally owed. This is a picture. It's a picture of how much we have been forgiven. You see, if we understand how much we have been forgiven on the cross when Jesus died there and when he rose from the dead, if we understand that we have been forgiven so much and so drastically, that should spill over into our reactions and our interactions with other people. Forgiveness should flow from our heart as a spring of water. Because we know how much we've been forgiven from God, there is nothing too big for me to be able to forgive. And if I'm having a hard time forgiving someone for something, well, then maybe the answer is not to necessarily try harder, but maybe my solution is to go back into the Word, to remind myself how much I've been forgiven in Christ. Because if I know that, if I know how much Jesus has forgiven me, then I will readily and easily forgive others their sins. This is Jesus' point. How many times are you to forgive? Not just 7, not even just 77, but maybe 7 times 7. 70 times 7, 7 million times 7. This forgiveness should be ever flowing from our hearts because we know how much Jesus forgave us. This is a story that hits home. This is a story that shows us what forgiveness is, and a story that shows us what forgiveness does for us in our life, in our interactions with other people. God help you to forgive others as you have been forgiven.